The sound that morning was unmistakable, a crowbar smacking over and over against my front door metal, on metal frustration ringing out like a bell. I was standing just inside coffee, going cold in my hand, watching Delilah Thornwick, president of our illustrious HOA, swinging that crowbar like she could actually make a dent. But she never stood a chance. My door, all 800 pounds of reinforced steel, just shrugged it off, the crowbar bouncing away harmlessly. Channel 12 had cameras rolling, neighbors had their phones out, recording the whole meltdown for posterity. I stood there, half exhausted, half entertained, wondering how it all came to this. Just 2 weeks before my father was being buried with military honors, the flag folded tight in my hands. Rain dripped from my jacket as I got back from Pennsylvania, only to find my own locks changed. No warning, no emergency, just a silent punishment from the HOA over my dad's navy blue mailbox. That was the kind of homecoming that hollows a person out. 3 a.m., clutching that flag, standing in the rain outside a house that wasn't mine anymore, at least not according to Delilah. My keys were useless. Slept in my truck that night, felt like a stranger in my own driveway. People think structural engineers are cold and methodical. Truth is, losing your father, coming home to pettiness stacked on top of grief, ignites something deeper. The next day I called in every favor, pulled permits, and ordered the strongest damn residential vault door money could buy. Biometrics, composite, steel, fireproof, soundproof, legal in every way. Cost me $22,000. Worth every penny for the look on Delilah's face as her authority splintered on impact. Back in Riverside Meadows, the illusion of neighborly calm hides all sorts of rot. Dad's house sat on a corner lot, 40 years of Old Spice and Navy memorabilia, everything in its place, including that mailbox, painted just the right shade of navy. The mailbox was more than a box. It was a piece of my father's stubborn pride. Delilah hated it. She saw every bit of individuality as a threat to her HOA empire, a kingdom of beige and sage green conformity. At 45, I'd spent decades designing buildings that could outlast earthquakes and storms. Never thought I'd be up against a woman who believed her clipboards and threats were stronger than steel. Delilah ran the HOA like a fiefdom, with Brad Kowalski nodding along to every ridiculous order, the rest of the board barely present scenery more than decision makers. The game started small. Notices about lawn clippings, a garbage can out of alignment, oil spots on the drive, $50 here, $50 there. I paid not because I agreed, but because grief makes a person docile. You start to think, maybe if I just go along, the world will leave me be for a while. That illusion shattered with the mailbox letter. 2 days before Dad's funeral, Delilah sent a certified demand: paint the mailbox, approved desert tan or sage green or else. I called her. Tried to explain what that mailbox meant. She bulldozed right through my words, barely pretending to care. Rules are rules, Mr. Rodriguez. Could have screamed. Instead, I buried my father, then came home to find myself locked out, no notice, no explanation, nothing but her signature on a locksmith's invoice. The feeling that night, begging Robert, my plumber neighbor, for a place to crash, was worse than any fine. That's when rage finally outshouted grief. No more playing nice. I got online, read every Arizona statute I could find. 20 minutes on the phone with Pete the locksmith told me everything. Delilah authorized an emergency lock change for some made-up security reason. No evidence, just her word and the HOA's checkbook. Next stop was the county recorder's office. Smelled like dust and bureaucracy, but I found Gold Riverside Meadows' original HOA covenant from 1985. There, clear as day, pre-existing features installed prior to January 1st, 1990 are exempt from future modifications. Dad's mailbox was installed in '87. Delilah's fines, legally meaningless. Armed with facts, I confronted her at her real estate office, surrounded by property listings she'd scavenged from other violators, plopped the locksmith bill and the covenant on her glass desk. When I started recording the conversation, Arizona's a one-party consent state, her face changed colors. She stammered about emergencies but couldn't back it up. Walked out with a reimbursement check and a mental note. This was bigger than me and a mailbox. Janet Morrison found me before I got home, retired teacher, widowed last year, another Delilah victim. Her voice was sharp, her eyes steelier than mine. She'd been through 18 months of violations, harassment, forced to sell her corner lot at a loss. She laid it all out. Delilah preyed on people when they were at their lowest, pushing them to sell so she could buy their homes cheap and flip them. I saw the pattern in her notes, my engineering brain assembling a picture more alarming than any building failure. Teamed up with Janet, started mapping out the harassment. Brad, the yes man, and the rest of the board didn't notice, but the paper trail was clear: community funds funneled to Delilah's own company, fake emergencies triggering expensive maintenance, just as owners were pressured to sell. The audacity was almost impressive. Delilah pushed back, of course. Another violation appeared on my door, this time for my Ring doorbell labeled unauthorized security measure. Thing is, Arizona law required official notice for violations, not a slip of paper taped to the door at dawn. I called the HOA management company. They'd never heard of my offense. That's when I knew Delilah was freelancing, and I had more than enough to blow this wide open. What she didn't count on: engineers don't just build things, they document everything. Found out from city records that Delilah's investment properties were being converted to luxury rentals, directly violating HOA covenants. She wasn't just a bully. She was flipping homes illegally, using her HOA power as a shield. Set a trap. Installed 6 floodlights, legal, city compliant, aimed at my own yard, but bright enough to make my mailbox a beacon. She sent an anonymous threat: turn off those lights or else. Next day she showed up with Brad, a fake property manager, and poor Mrs. Cecilia, a neighbor from 4 houses over, holding a complaint letter written in suspiciously technical English. Terms like luminous flux and light trespass coefficient. I asked who wrote it for her. Her answer: my son, but he works at a restaurant. I offered to walk with Mrs. Cecilia to see the lights for myself. Brad's brother-in-law, the expert, looked like he was about to faint. The kicker: the photos Mrs. Cecilia showed as evidence were of a different property entirely. One Delilah owned, the same one she'd bullied Margaret Henderson into selling the year before. Delilah was manufacturing complaints, using her own violations as proof against innocent people. The final twist: Janet's golden retriever found a bag left behind in the chaos. Inside, a folder with a detailed plan, phase 1, 2, 3, listing every family Delilah had harassed, every home she'd targeted. There it was. Black and white, my address, Janet's, Mrs. Cecilia's, all mapped out. She'd turned the HOA into her own little real estate racket. From that day on, my garage became ground zero for our counterattack. Whiteboards, timelines, legal research. Janet's network of retired teachers, masters of gathering evidence, grew into a suburban intelligence agency. Margaret Henderson came forward, voicemails in hand. 14 families in all. $400,000 in stolen equity, dozens of forced sales. The vault door was just the beginning. Worked with Phoenix Custom Security for the install. Dave, the owner, knew the score. You want a door that'll break the person trying to break it, he asked. Absolutely, I said. 2 weeks later, the beast arrived. Composite core biometric lock disguised as plain old suburbia, but built like Fort Knox. The day of the install, Janet brought coffee cake. Mrs. Cecilia came with her granddaughter. Neighbors set up lawn chairs. People love a good showdown. Right on cue, Delilah appeared, all red power suit and bluster, camera crew in tow, brandishing emergency board vote papers. Tom, the board member, called her bluff. Maria, the treasurer, had her receipts ready. No record of any emergency meeting. Channel 12 was on the way. I put the reporter on speaker, told her about the fraud, the bullying, the vault door, everything. Delilah's face drained of color. The plot thickened. Dave revealed his warehouse had been broken into, confidential door specs stolen. Security footage pointed to Delilah's Lexus. When the police showed up, it was game over. Detective Morrison cuffed Delilah in front of half the neighborhood and every local news crew. Neighbors fired up a grill. That block party was the sweetest victory I've ever tasted. Evidence poured out: financial records, burner phones, fake complaints, threats. Delilah went down for fraud, embezzlement, civil rights violations. Restitution paid to every family she'd hurt. Janet was elected HOA president by unanimous vote, promising transparency and an end to the nonsense. Property values went up for the right reasons. Neighbors became friends, not just faces passing by. The vault door became a symbol, the vault justice story going viral, documentaries, news stories, even new laws passed. Delilah's little fiefdom inspired legislation, the vault door law, making HOAs accountable nationwide. Funny how a stubborn mailbox and a steel door became the rallying cry. 6 months later, the Frank Rodriguez Memorial Scholarship helped Mrs. Cecilia's granddaughter give a STEM presentation on home security using my vault door as a prop. The scholarship funded by the restitution money went to kids studying engineering law, community advocacy, real change, the kind my father would have been proud of. Looking back, none of this was about a mailbox or even a door. It was about what happens when regular people refuse to be bullied out of their homes. When the system is rigged, sometimes you have to outsmart it, document everything, and build something so strong that when the bullies attack, they end up destroying themselves. So here's the question I keep turning over. What do we owe each other in a community? Where's the line between order and tyranny? How do you tell the difference between leadership and exploitation? The mailbox still stands navy blue, the vault door still unbroken, and for the first time in a long time, this place actually feels like home. Now it's your turn. What's the pettiest violation you've ever gotten? Ever had a neighbor or HOA try to steal your peace of mind? Drop your story below. What's your line in the sand? Let's hear about your fight, because everyone deserves to feel safe in their own home.